Just another two random thoughts coming together. And here we go. I really enjoyed this one quote from Carl Jung when he says this. I'm going to try to quote it as close as I can. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness known. And I use that quote in classes when I teach, and I like to bring it up pretty often because I think in religious circles, it's very, very easy to protect ourselves from our worst parts by using God, by using religion, by using these religious structures and cultures and robes and all of that. And it's true, because I can see it in myself too, that we as human beings will do anything. We will dive into any form of distraction or defense mechanism in order to avoid facing the parts of us that are too ugly, the parts of us that we are embarrassed for other people to find, and that we're even embarrassed to find ourselves. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. But I think that the trouble is we can sometimes focus on only talking about the light stuff, thinking that that's the solution, without ever really addressing or taking a deep look or a deep dive at any of the dark stuff. And by dark, I mean our own propensity for depression and divorce and addiction and all the stuff that we're just embarrassed, the fact that we're impatient, the fact that, I don't know, we've got deep-seated wells of jealousy and comparison and rage and fury, all these things. It's so easy to look the other way and just talk about the light without really doing a diagnosis of what the real problem is. But this quote, for me, kind of recently, it's become connected to Ephesians. I think Ephesians 5:13, it talks about anything that has a light shined on it becomes the light itself. So that means everything that we consider too dark and too dangerous, you shine a light on it, and then all of a sudden that thing transforms. Or all of a sudden the darkness, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, my gosh, our divorce, our drunkenness, our envy, rage, all of these things, you shine a direct light on it, and somehow even those things can be transformed. And so I think Carl Jung was right, and he was tapping into like a spiritual truth that we will do anything to avoid looking at that dark stuff. But when we do that, we actually end up avoiding letting those things become light to us and then light to other people. Think about how refreshing it is when someone talks about their own sadness. You're like, oh, I've been there. And then all of a sudden it gives you permission to be human because they just gave themselves permission to be human. It's just this beautiful thing. And so I don't know how this might strike you, but for me, faith has increasingly become something that's devoted to shining a light on the dark stuff within myself first, and then in the world. Because one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness known. Grace and peace.